Greetings, free thinkers. Welcome to the Hoggcast. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing fine. I certainly am. Okay, what do we have for you on today's episode? We have for you the Canadian anti-lockdown movement is growing. The Trudeau authoritarian response to it is growing. We have some things to watch, mostly from a town in Manitoba called Steinbach. Where people are being ticketed and essentially intimidated by the local Gestapo, I suppose you could call them. What are they doing? They are attending church. Even that, it's an outside church and they are still being ticketed. They're standing outside, being responsible, and they're still being ticketed. They're still being followed around and they're having their lives made difficult. Now, the final thing we're going to watch is from Toronto, where a lot of Christian people, and I should imagine a lot of not Christian people too, are in attendance doing the same thing, although it's an actual gathering and they're protesting against the continuing lockdowns, and the sentiment is starting to change, I believe. So without further ado, let's get into this video. But if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this video around. There's a share button down there to social media, Twitter, Facebook, Parler. That only takes a couple of moments and it really helps this channel grow, helps your favourite cultural commentary channels grow, and it's needed now more than ever. Okay, let's go. So the first thing we're going to watch is tickets being handed out to the residents and the congregation of a church in Steinbach, hope I'm pronouncing that right, which is a town in Manitoba, Canada.
That you are demonstrating today. That's right. This is not right.
Go close down the liquor stores. Go close down the shops. The stores that sell drugs. Come on. Why are they being closed? Why can't we go to church on private property?
Exactly.
This is
God is essential.
You are.
We need him now more than ever.
That's
Why
right.
do you guys go to Uber and Costco? Tons of people on their cars there.
So we'll watch it again in a sec, but she makes a very good point. She said, why don't you go over to Costco, which is like a supermarket? Why don't you go and harass those people sitting in their cars? Because this is an outdoor church. They're on private property. As she said, listen, they're not bothering anyone. They're not harming anyone. They're not a risk to anyone. They're sitting in their cars. They're self-contained. If that was such a problem, as she said, why don't you go to the supermarkets and the stores, and as she said, the places that sell alcohol? These are deeply Christian people, so she's railing against the alcohol stores and what she referred to as the shops, which are like, well, I don't even know what one, a brothel maybe, I'm not sure, but whatever it is in Canada that they call a sex shop, saying close that down. But they're not, and you've got these police, and as I said, Christian people, deeply Christian people in general, are pro-police, okay? In all of these Antifa and BLM rallies where they never get treated like this, they are anti-police. They rail against the police. They want to pull down statues and do all kinds of things. These Christian people are pro-police. They were the first ones to come to the protection of the thin blue line. Back the blue. All of these groups in these Western countries. Yet we see police arresting people who they support. Why? My own personal opinion is because it's easier. It's easier to arrest a law-abiding person who's shown respect to you than it is to arrest a group of Antifa members who are unruly and they break things, etc., etc. It's, in other words, policing has become, and I've said this before, it's not about who's right and wrong, it's about who's easy to arrest and who's not easy to arrest. And they'll just go and arrest the easiest person to arrest because I think they've got what their idea of their job is supposed to be a bit wrong. Because these police, they just stand there menacingly, like with their arms crossed, all aggressive, passive aggressive, to a bunch of Christians on private property who just want to pray.
This extremism that you are demonstrating today. That's right. This is not right.
Go close down the liquor stores. Go close down the sex shops. The stores that sell drugs. Come on, wear baby clothes. Why can't we go to church on private property?
Exactly.
This is
God
wrong.
is essential.
You are.
We need him now more than ever.
That's
Why
right.
do you guys go over in Costco? Tons of people in their cars.
You guys know.
So they're actually blocking the church's road. And look, that's a military vehicle. That is an armoured vehicle there. So Antifa are allowed to pull down statues as they did in Canada. I did a video on that about a couple of months ago. The streets were as quiet as a crypt. No police, no nothing. Christians turn up to go to a church on private property. The road gets blocked with military armoured vehicles. This is peak 2020. So next we have the clip of, this is in Toronto, so we were in Steinbach, which is in Manitoba. I believe that's much further north in Canada, which is why it was snowy already. So this is Toronto. All of these people are like Christian people, they're decent people, they're law-abiding people. You can tell that immediately because these statues are still standing. They haven't been pulled down. And the people generally have a much better, cleaner appearance.
Our national motto is on the coat of arms of Canada. And many people in Canada today have forgotten. And we need to remind ourselves, because if we don't remind ourselves of these things, how can we stand for freedom and liberty if we don't know what they're grounded in? The national motto of Canada, which is on the coat of arms, and when I took my oath of citizenship, it was right there behind the judge. Amare usk admare, from sea to sea, which is taken from Psalm 72, verse 8. He shall have dominion from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. Speaking of Christ.
So that guy's British. He's obviously went to Canada because he wanted to live in a better country. A country that's more freer. This is why I always wanted to move to the United States. I look to the United States, the USA. I love American culture. I love pre-modern American culture. I love Americana from the 1990s, the turn of the century, the American Pie generation, you know, the American Pie college kids who weren't millennials, who weren't soy boys and that type of stuff. Attitude Era, WWE, WWF, that type of Hollywood 1990s where the films were good, where you could, when pre-smartphone, pre-iPhone 10 or whatever, that Americana. I loved that Americana. That's why Donald Trump got into politics, because he wanted to make America great again. He wanted to make America the land of the free again. And that guy's obviously moved from Britain to Canada because he wanted the same thing. And, you know, you're losing this. Whether it's Canada or the United States, you're losing what makes you a beacon of light. So, I think it's worth standing up for.
Our head of state, lest we need reminding, is Queen Elizabeth II. And in her coronation oath, she swore to uphold the law and true profession of the gospel of Christ. That was the oath of our head of state. And our Canadian charter begins with the preamble declaring that we are founded on the principles which recognize what? The supremacy of God. Not the supremacy of the state, not the supremacy of any political actor, not the supremacy of bureaucrats and medical professionals, but the supremacy of God. Not unelected officials, but the supremacy of God.
And he's making some good points. You know, you have when he said about the unelected bureaucrats, I think of obviously the Gestapo agents that we just saw in the first clip, but I also think of a clip I saw ages. I didn't make a video on this, but it was on the Rebel News. I think you might remember it if you're subscribed to them, if you're a fan of their work in Canada. Rebel News are obviously despised in Canada by the mainstream media because the mainstream media marches in lockstep with Justin Trudeau. So they're obviously not journalists, they're activists, because they're never going to question him in any meaningful way. They're never going to ask him anything that the actual people want an answer to. But Rebel News does. So Justin Trudeau has tried to destroy Rebel News, and the mainstream media gleefully follow, and all of the low information people who think that when they turn on Canada's news networks, they're getting something valuable out of it. They're not. They're getting... It's a fabrication. It's propaganda. So, what I was saying about that clip that was on Rebel News, before I went off on that tangent, it was a Canadian, one of these people who fines people for Rona infractions. And he was treating this man who was sitting in his car on his own. He'd just been into the shop. He came out of the shop, got in his car, and he was in his car in the parking lot. And this guy just ran straight up to him, ticketed him. The guy was trying to reason with him, say, "Look, why are you doing this, etc., etc." But this Rona-Enforcement officer who ticketed him, who I should imagine is working on commission, he was immediately offended that someone could dare to question his supreme authority on everything, okay, especially Rona related. His attitude was, "I've ticketed you, peasant. You don't get to question me." And then what he didn't know is that the man in the car was filming it. He was recording what was happening. And then this was leaked. He sent it out. None of the mainstream media news wanted to touch it because they're pro-authoritarianism. But Rebel News picked it up and sent it out everywhere. And the Gestapo guy just freaked out because he knew he'd been caught. And, you know, that's what this guy means when he said that you don't put your faith in unelected officials like that. They're not for you, they're for themselves. You put your faith in God. I've done that recently, by the way. I'm not sure whether I should say this or not, but I obviously was an atheist most of my life. I'm not sure if I am anymore. I might be, I don't know. I know it sounds silly, but I put my faith in God in something over the last couple of years. And it was the first time in my life I put my faith in God, and that thing turned out right. I said, "God, if you're real, help me with this." And maybe one day I'll tell you guys what it is. It's something big, it's something serious, something life-changing. And I put my faith in God, and He helped me, and He gave me a new lease of life. So I'm grateful to God. I don't think it was a coincidence. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell and share this video around. It's needed now more than ever because independent commentary channels are being throttled by the powers that be who do not want anyone having any semblance of an independent thought. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye. If you enjoyed that video, if I could ask you please to subscribe to the channel, hit that little subscribe bar down below, hit the notification bell beside it and put it on notifications to all notifications. That will just notify you when I upload. I upload videos almost every day. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you tomorrow.